Inspire Careers Spotlight on Careers is excited to welcome a new affiliate partner to the podcast, and that is the Salary Bump. The Salary Bump is offering a special deal to the listeners of the Inspire Careers Spotlight on Careers podcast, and that is a 15% off coupon for their digital course, the Salary Accelerator Program. Use the special code INSPIRE15 at the link below here in our notes and get 15% off the digital program. It's going to help you prepare for salary negotiations, whether you are negotiating a raise inside your current job or you're looking outside your company and you have a new opportunity. Congratulations. Either way, you're going to be able to approach the opportunity with more confidence than you have before. So check it out. Hi, it's Kathy Lanzalaco with another episode of Inspire Careers Spotlight on Careers, the video podcast series where I bring you best-in-class information from all over the career management space to keep you up to date and help you advance in your careers. And today, we are going to be talking about the subject of new college graduates. Congratulations if you are a new grad and you are catching this episode. And if you are the parent of a new grad, thank you for listening. I hope that your new grad already has a job and you're just listening to hear what I may have to say about it. But chances are, if you're listening to it, your new grad doesn't have a job, and that's what you're tuning in for. So let's talk a little bit about why I'm even talking about this today. For those of you that may know me, you know that I do specialize in working with young people and particularly new college grads or college seniors, helping them get internships. And really the way that started kind of by accident was that I would work with their parents, their executive parents, helping them get new jobs, and we developed a great relationship. And over time, they would ask me to work with their children. And so I would help their children create resumes, LinkedIn profiles. But what was happening when I first started working with young people was that I'd give them a great resume, I'd give them a LinkedIn profile, I'd talk to them a little bit about job search, but then I would find out a couple months later they still might not have had a job. And after a few times of this happening, I realized that in some instances, these young people need more direction. And not everybody. Some people are very natural in terms of finding a job after college. Some people have doors open to them automatically. They have jobs lined up, but a lot of kids don't. And not for any reason other than they just don't know how to job search. And so I really took it upon myself to learn more about these young people and learn how to help them more deeply. And in doing that over the course of several years, I have built up this program that Inspire Careers specializes in, the Inspire Careers Student Professional Launch Program, that has won a national award for career innovation from Career Directors International. And now we service young people all over the country, helping them get internships and jobs where other people can't help them. And it is an end-to-end solution for these young people, teaching them everything they need to know to be completely independent in their job search. So when I talk about these young people, I feel that I'm coming at from a place of expertise. I deal with so many of them, and I understand these young people so deeply. And I am a mother of young adults as well, but I also have been an adjunct professor at Niagara University at a local college. So I'm really entrenched in this space. So it's really interesting working with these executives on one end and these young people on the other. But the really great thing about this is that as we help these young people launch into their professional careers, we are setting them up for their futures as executives, teaching them to be independent, teaching them creative problem-solving skills in the workplace already that's only going to serve them and help them even be able to do better and advance even faster, and hopefully to be able to really to fulfill the type of careers they really wanted to, even better because they are being very intentional about their careers. So that's where I'm coming from, and that's the perspective that I'm taking. Do I know everything? No, I don't. But I will tell you that I work with these kids all the time and with great success, 100% success in the program. So I want to talk today and I want to share some of what I have learned, and I hope it helps you. Again, if you are a new grad watching this or a parent and it's after graduation, you don't have a job lined up, or maybe you're watching this, right away or a few months afterwards, or you're thinking about next summer already, an internship or that next job. And let me tell you what, a year in advance is not too early to start looking either. That's actually the ideal time. So let's kind of get into it. The job market has been tough for everybody. Since COVID, things have been kind of crazy. People, the quitting and everybody, the remote working, and then people coming back to the office, quiet quitting, all these crazy things that have been happening kind of settled back down in 2024 and now into 2025. The market is tough. Even executives are finding that it's taking them up to 7 or 8 months to find a job, with being very diligent to try to find a job. And these are people that have fabulous experience. Okay. Great tools, fabulous experience, know how to network. It's still taking them a long time. So can you imagine what it's like for these young people that don't have, in many cases, any experience, coming out fresh? Maybe they have a master's degree, maybe they don't. Maybe they have an internship, maybe they don't. But they're brand new, right? They're shiny and new, coming out into the job market, and they're coming into the market and they're not really even sure what their skills are. The employers, have you seen that, the job postings a lot of times are entry level positions, but the employers want 1, 3, 5 years of experience? Kind of crazy, right? So it's tough out there. And so I want to provide some insights into what I have seen as what the barriers to success for some of these young people are, many of these young people, and how to get over that. So let's talk a little bit about that. So as we know, you're coming out of school, you don't have a lot of experience. So what do you do? How do you kind of prepare even before you graduate? Well, I want to take this opportunity to say, if you are a young person listening, or if you are the parent of a young person listening, these internships are critically important. And everybody you think you know that, but I cannot tell you the amount of young people that I work with that do not have internships when they graduate. And it's unfortunate because the schools, everybody needs to have one, or they're not under an obligation to have one. Nobody has to have one to graduate, but everyone knows how important it is. And the schools don't always help kids get these, but they know how important they are. And unless the young person is motivated or they know somebody to get one, sometimes they're just as hard to get as a job. And I know that because people come to me to help get internships, because the parents know how important it is to get these internships, to get that job the next year. So it's critically important. So the first thing I want to say is, if you're listening to this and you're still in college, grab onto that internship, okay? They can even be more important than your GPA. Depends on what profession you're going into, of course, right? But in many cases, that GPA may have less to do with your success than having some of that experience and being able to say that you've actually worked in some teams and you've done some of that hands-on work. So that's just kind of a little plug I want to put in there for the internship. But what I really see outside of this experience piece, yes, young people don't have experience for the most part. They come out of college, they don't. But I'm going to tell you what I think is the real problem, and it's not experience. It's not lack of internship. It's not lack of experience. It's not lack of drive. It's not lack of ambition. It really is, dun, 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 lack of confidence. And the lack of confidence, and I'm going to show this to you in a minute, the lack of confidence snowballs into everything else and destroys their ability to be able to get that job that they thought they were going to be able to relatively easily get this last 3.5 to 4 years. And I'm going to tell you why I have believed this, and I've seen it over and over again as I'm coaching these people, as I'm coaching these young people. Most of what we have to do together is mental work. It's about confidence. It's about showing up. And it's about overcoming those inner voices inside that tell you you're not good enough. So can anybody relate? All right, let's stop there for a minute and say, parents, if you're listening, or anybody else listening, how many of us know that already? And we all go through this. And we are not necessarily at the bottom of the job search food chain like these young people are. So imagine how tough it is for them. But I kind of want to bring this to you, and I want to show you what I am experiencing with these young people through them, and what I've seen has helped them. And I want to give you some pointers so that you can help them too, if it's your child and you want to help them, or if it's somebody else that you know, or however that you're interacting with these young people. But this is what I have found helps them in particular. So again, certainly we want to get them experience. Take that internship, kids, do well in school, all of those things. But what I'm finding happens is these young people come out and they know, like they can look around, they know they don't have the experience, they can read a job posting, they can see the requirements of the job. And oftentimes, these kids do not have all the qualifications, even for entry level jobs. And I'm talking beyond the 1 to 3 years of experience. It's kind of ridiculous. I have seen this over and over, particularly with tech jobs. I'm seeing all the time with technology. A job that, like a software developer job or database engineering, things like this. You think that these kids are well prepared for these jobs because they've learned tons of languages, they know all kinds of programming, they've worked in tons of different databases, they have all these things. You can put them on their resumes. We give them fabulous resumes when we work with them, and we spell all of these things out front and center. But what happens is they go to read the job description and they always don't have something. There's always something that they're missing. And whether it's in marketing, whether it's in tech, whatever it is, it's always something they don't have. And so they see that, and then they see this 1 to 3 years of experience, and then they know that maybe they don't have a 4.0 average or GPA, or maybe they didn't have the internship. And what they start doing, and they walk me through this even without knowing they're doing it, but they start layering. They start layering their self-doubt with, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. And before you know it, they're starting the job search from a place of lack of confidence. And we're not talking about imposter syndrome. That doesn't apply to these kids. I'm talking about lack of confidence where they don't even feel qualified for an entry-level position. And they are. They are qualified. But they're telling themselves the stories because they're listening to people outside. They're reading job descriptions, and they're reading even more into the job description. And oftentimes the job description's unrealistic, but they're even reading more into it. They're watching their friends that have gotten jobs. They're watching their brothers and sisters, other people that they know that have gotten jobs. It's like, why not me? How come I didn't get that job? They apply for 5 jobs, 3, 4, 5 jobs, and that's all. They don't get any of them, and all of a sudden they crash and burn. And that's all they need to take them down because they didn't have the confidence to begin with, and now they've been rejected. It happens that quickly. I see it over and over again. And this only happens in a matter of weeks. And if experienced, qualified professionals to executives take 8 months to find a job, imagine if a new grad is applying for 5 jobs and they get rejected and they're practically ready to quit. And I see it all the time. They've talked themselves into it, right? Because of this lack of confidence. And what happens is the lack of confidence is the problem, but it's also the symptom. It's a little bit of both. And we're going to talk about that. But the bigger problem with it is that because it's an emotional and a mental issue where it's not a problem in that sense, but it's a challenge. It's an exercise, or it's a muscle that they have to exercise to get over. And it's hard. It's hard because you don't see the evidence of it, right? You can say, listen, you're good. You can do this. You can do this. But they don't have the evidence to back it up. And isn't that so often where we adults that have a lifetime of experience still have that problem? So we really can't hold these kids accountable to it. But this is how it goes. So they start out that job search already not feeling completely on top of the world. Now they've gotten rejected from a few jobs, and it's very quick how they spiral. Now, I see this all the time. So what happens is once they have identified, yes, I don't think I'm qualified for this job, and they can say, I really don't have the confidence. I don't want to do this. What happens is they tell themselves how hard it is. They continue to tell themselves and reinforce to themselves that they're not good enough. They can't do it. So what do? They start pulling back. They start pulling back from the job search. So now they've applied for 5 jobs, and to apply for the 6th, now it may take weeks till they do that. And we know sometimes job search is a bit of a numbers game. You have to apply to some. You've got to apply to more than 5 generally to get any results. It's just the way the job search is today. But imagine how that feels when you're that young and that inexperienced, and you feel like I'm well prepared. I have a fabulous degree from a fabulous university. I did well at school. I played sports. I have friends. There's no reason I shouldn't have the job. And I continue to get rejected. This is what happens. And they start telling themselves and layering on all these things. So when I'm working with these young people, what we start doing once we've identified this is we start working on exercising the muscle for confidence, because you can tell people, be more confident, be more confident. But confidence is practice. You do not wake up in the morning being confident. I don't know, maybe you do. I don't. I don't know anybody that really does. You have to practice it. You have to practice being confident, telling yourself you're good enough, showing up, doing things. That's how you get better at it. It's practice like anything else. But these kids don't know that. They expect to be confident the next day. They don't know any different. So I'm here to tell them it's different. And I'm here to help walk them through that exercise where we're going to continue to practice it. Every day, we're going to practice being more confident. We're going to try it a little bit more. We're going to step out. We're going to do things, right? And we're going to talk to ourselves differently, because we have to talk to ourselves differently so that we can start pulling back these layers that we have now lowered or layered onto ourselves through our negative self-talk. And listen, as the adults in the room, we all know this, right? We do it to ourselves. So again, remember, these young people are dealing with it more. Their brains are not fully formed. They've got social media breathing down their necks. They've got friends, maybe. And I've been there too sometimes, little overbearing parents, right? We want to do things. We want to push our kids, right? They've got a lot of pressure on them. So all of these things feed into that. But helping them understand that it's practice and it's not something that they're expected to have immediately really helps release that burden a bit. Walking them through the exercises of, yes, today we're going to do this. We're going to set goals for today. And this is how we're going to respond. And this is how we're going to talk to ourselves. Incremental changes every day really does work, because it's hard work. And if left to their own devices, they won't do it. Because I don't know who out there is doing a lot of hard work until you're really mature, until you're really mature and you really want to do it. Or they do the hard work when they really want to. Like maybe these young people are going to the gym because they know it makes them look good and feel good, and that's great. But the harder stuff is really hard. And if you're one of those parents that you've really tried to open the doors for your child and you've really tried to make their lives easier than your life perhaps was, they may not have a lot of skin in the game. They may not have a lot of motivation to get that job. They may not have student loans. They may not have car payments or apartments to pay for. So there isn't a whole lot necessarily pushing them on the other end. Seen that too. And that's not a parental judgment, because I've been there too. Like, we all want to do those things for our kids. But that feeds into it, right? So how can we then try to get them a little bit more motivated to do some of this stuff that's pretty hard? So in terms of trying to get them to that spot where we can help them not take it so personally, because that's what we do, right? Every time. And we as the executives do that too. We take it personally when we get rejected from a job. So trying to get that over that and trying to help them understand that it really is just a transaction. Applying for a job is a transaction. It's not personal. And the more we do that, they understand that it really isn't them. It becomes more as you get farther into the process. But even a job interview at first isn't, because they don't know you. They don't know you when they say, nope, you're not the right candidate for us. We're going in a different direction. They still don't know you, right? So all of these things they have to walk through. They don't have this experience to know that. They probably walked into McDonald's and got that job on the spot if they've been working there, or maybe the country club or wherever the heck they've been working for the past couple of years. And they never even had to interview. So, they think, well, why wouldn't I get this job? Because that's how it's been. It's not the same. It's not the same. And in today's world, everybody's their competition. And you know who else is their competition that they don't understand? Not only the people from their graduating class, but the people from the 6 months before and the year before and the year before that, and the people that are already trying to get that job for next year. So the pool is huge of who their competition is. And that's not necessarily something we tell them, but the reality is that's why it's so hard. So part of what we want to do is be able to help them get a little more motivated by trying to take that personal element out of it a bit and try to help them to see it as it's just an interaction. This is the job of finding a job. And that sometimes takes the burden. But you know what lack of confidence does too? And I think this will sound familiar to any parents watching this. It feeds the anxiety. It feeds the anxiety monster that so many of these young people are fighting. So much so that as I continue to work with these young people, I continue to see over time that many of them, Their job searches were completely thwarted by their anxiety, which oftentimes stemmed from this lack of confidence. They'd have the lack of confidence, they'd apply for a few jobs, they'd get rejected, they'd start pulling back, telling themselves the stories again that I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. Now what started to happen is they stopped applying for jobs, they stopped showing up for appointments with me, they started sleeping in later, they stopped doing what they're supposed to be doing. The anxiety goes up, the job search completely has gone away, and now the anxiety is feeding other parts of their life. And they probably already had some anxiety to begin with, because most of these young people do. And as their parents, you probably know that. I've yet to meet young people that don't have it, that don't really have a serious problem with it. This is what we're dealing with today with helping our young people, because that's what they're dealing with. So much so that I had to bring in, I didn't have to, but I decided to bring in a therapist to work with my young people, to help them deal with their anxiety, to help them learn how to manage their anxiety. Because anxiety, stress is part of life, and we can't get rid of it completely. But they did not have the tools to be able to manage it, to be able to find a place in their life, to be able to put it, to work with it, and then be able to still manage a job search. So once I brought her into the program and started working with these kids, it gave them an outlet to start talking about their anxiety, talking about their confidence, talking about the process. And it took the burden off of the process and started being able to allow them to unburden themselves about it. And then we could come back to it. Because if you don't acknowledge it, they don't want to talk about it. It's going to continue to thwart the process completely. And you'll never be able to put your finger on exactly what it is. And they will not come out and tell you. Maybe they don't even know. Maybe they're ashamed. Maybe they don't think it's important. Maybe they're so used to dealing with it, they don't even know it's there. But if these young people don't have the help they need to know what they're dealing with and to get the support they need, they're not going to be successful at finding these jobs. And listen, the number one problem about young people finding jobs is the parents finding it for them. How about that? If you're finding your kids their first job, listen, I know, listen, we all want to, don't we? But you know what happens then? You taught them that they can't find it themselves. And if they can continue to rely on you, and then the next time they need a job, are you going to find them a job again? That is the problem. These kids need to be able to know that they have the tools, they have the ability to find their own job. And usually parents come to me after they've tried to find a job for their kids. And that's where I come in, yes, but we want to help these kids do it on their own. And when parents are solving the problem for them, these kids aren't learning to problem solve. But I'm a parent, I get it. I get it. But this feeds into that problem, because now if you're doing that, the kids have the job, but they know they didn't get it themselves. And now what happens the next time, right? Which is why we try to teach independence. We teach independence in the job search, how to deal with the problems, how to handle the anxiety, how to deal with rejection, how to be creative in our job search, how to do things differently so that they can do it on their own the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Because isn't that the ultimate goal? Isn't that the goal of college? Learning, growing up, maturing, going out into the world. And that's what my program's designed to do. But that's what we want to help all of our kids do, right? So that's the important thing, is to make sure that we're all kind of rowing this boat in the same direction in terms of helping these young people become independent managing their emotions, independent solving their own problems, not blaming the employers, not blaming the job market. We can all do that easily enough because it's terrible out there. We get it. But if we give them the right tools, then they can solve these problems on their own. New grads are out there many times floundering because they don't know how to job search. They're not taught how to job search in school. I know this firsthand. I worked at a university and I work with these kids all the time, so I can tell you. Yes, they're set up on LinkedIn. Yes, they're set up with Handshake. Yes, many of them go to the Career Center. And the Career Centers are wonderful. This is not about Career Center bashing. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about they still don't know. They have to walk through it. They don't know. Until you experience it, you really don't know. And who's telling these young people they have to network? Because I don't know any young kid that's like networking. Now, we can try to get them out of the house from behind the computer and tell them, let's find a place that you can go to talk to people. other young people that are looking for jobs, other young people that are doing the same kind of work you're doing, and never mention the word, right? That's different than putting it on their plate and say, go network, that's how you're going to find the job. No, talking to people will be. I had a young man in our program, Noah, he found his job by talking to somebody. He was a triathlete, somebody that he used to run with or bike with, right? That's how you find jobs. And that's how these young kids are going to find jobs. Who do you already know? Who do you know at the gym? Who do you know in your neighborhood? All these things. Tell everybody you know. That's what we teach, right? Now, you still need to try to reach out to recruiters, but that's part of what we do. We walk them through that because recruiters hold the key to many jobs. And they do need to learn how to talk to recruiters. So it's all part of it. It's all part of the growing up process, and it's all part of the job search process. But they don't know that until they get out there. And as the job market changes and as the landscape changes in terms of what employers are looking for and skill set, they have to know that they can adapt to these kind of things. But the important thing is if they're given the right tools, these kids are smart enough, they can do anything. But they just don't know. This is the bottom line is they don't know. And again, back to this confidence. Why don't you have the confidence? Because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, but you don't know it, right? So you know enough to say, I just don't have the tools. And that in itself breeds lack of confidence. And therefore, they're not good at the job search. And again, here we go with the layers, right? On and on. So I'm here to tell you, anybody watching this today, one, new grads today are smart. They just need guidance. They don't need it done for them, though. They need guidance. They don't need it done. If we continue to do everything for them, they'll never learn how to do it themselves. And that continues to erode their confidence because we're telling them that they can't do it. And, despite our best efforts, sometimes we do it anyway. So I get it. But we have to try to release that, and we have to try to let them do it on their own. Lack of confidence just comes from not having the tools, and then it's perpetuated by what we tell ourselves in our head. Is that any different than what we do? Not really. Not at all. So understanding that they think that same way, but that they have other things to deal with. They don't have the maturity, the life experience. They don't have the physical maturity of their brains to be able to deal with. They don't have all of these tools that we as adults, full mature adults have. So we have to be able to put ourselves in their place and understand what they're dealing with. To tell them, just go out there and do it. Just apply for another 20 jobs. Just do this and this. There's a time and a place for some of that. But you have to recognize what they're dealing with. This anxiety from social media, from phones and all this stuff. We could talk all day where this is coming from. But the reality is these kids have it. And to not address it is to not fully be part of their world and understand what they're dealing with. But when you give them the information, you give them the support, you give them the guidance, and sometimes you have to give them the space, then that's where the magic can happen. But you also have to set their expectations. These things aren't going to happen overnight generally. Job search is tough. And it might be the toughest thing they've ever had to do because they're becoming adults now. This is tough work. Talk to any executive. Their parents may have had that same experience. This is hard work. But if we can walk them through it and we can prepare them through it and we give them the tools, they can do anything. I love young people. I respect young people. I think they're fabulous. I just don't think they've been given the right guidance all the time in terms of, I think they kind of get a bad rap. People say young kids don't want to work. They want to sleep until noon, all that kind of stuff. And maybe there's an element of that. That's a lifestyle thing. When I meet with kids, we meet first thing in the morning. We start getting up like we're going to work. This is what we do. Training our bodies, training our confidence. This is what we do. It's practice, just like the practice of the confidence. So I'm going to leave you today with the thought that these young people need help. That's all they need. They don't need a handout. They need help like anything else. Here at Inspire Careers, that's what we do. We help young people too. So if you want to talk about it, let me know. You can check out the show notes too to get some thoughts to look back here about what we're talking about. Guidance, practice, that's really what they need. Structure is what they need too. Left to their own devices, left to our own devices, it's harder to do, right? And since they don't know what they're doing, how could they possibly know how to negotiate that? So with the right tools, And with the right guidance and the right support, they're brilliant and they can handle it. So I'm going to leave you with that thought today. And listen, if you don't agree with me, say so. Let me know here in the comments section. Or if you want to talk more about it, if you have a problem that you're experiencing and you want to talk more about it, a unique circumstance. Listen, one thing I didn't cover, and that we do cover in the program too, is a skills gap. I said it earlier. They look at these job postings and they don't have all the skills. These young kids have to recognize that they are responsible for closing that skill gap. And that when they go into these interviews, that they are offering value and that they can talk intelligently about things that they know and things that they have to learn. And that's okay too. But part of the job search is you may not be 100% when you come out of school. You have to still learn. We all have to still learn. And that's all part of the process too. So it's just all equipping them with what they need to know for the search. And once you do that, then they can take the breath and go, okay, I get it. I get it. And every time you give them another skill, they can check another box for something else they've learned. Their confidence goes up. They can talk better about themselves. And before you know it, they're getting through the interviews. All right. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on it. Drop them in the comment section. Let me know. Reach out. And if you have any questions about it, please reach out to me. Taking a quick break to share something I think you'll find valuable. If you're negotiating a raise or exploring a new role, check out the Salary Accelerator program. It's a digital course or affiliate partner, the Salary Bump, and it can help you approach salary conversations with strategy and confidence. Use the code INSPIRE15 for 15% off of the digital course. Find the link in the notes below. All right, folks, great talking to you today. Before you hang up here, subscribe to our channel, ring the bell for new episodes as they drop. And until we meet again, live inspired.